Welcome to this explainer. Okay, get ready because today we are diving into a genuinely fascinating real-world case study. We're looking at exactly how a modern beauty brand used a classic mathematical formula to just completely bypass the skyrocketing costs of digital advertising. If you've ever found yourself wondering how to actually measure the ROI for influencers who don't use tracking links, well, you are in the exact right place. It might sound a little crazy, and yeah, it might trigger just a tiny bit of high school math PTSD, but we're going to see exactly how a high school calculus concept, something you honestly probably haven't thought about since you were a teenager, actually served as the ultimate slingshot for a modern e-commerce David fighting a digital advertising Goliath. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start by looking at the rising cost of ads. Then we'll introduce the chain rule. Talk about extracting the data pipeline, walk through a real-world $5,000 test, and finally, wrap things up by finding the budget ceiling. All right, let's jump right into that first point, the rising cost of ads. We've got to start with the painful reality facing our protagonist today. The company is Amina Beauty Creation Ltd, better known in the market as just ABC Ltd. They are a native online skincare and beauty brand. Now, ABC Limited sells entirely through platforms like TikTok Shop, Shopee, and Lazada. But recently, they had a massive growth blocker. Traditional digital ad auctions are just becoming way too expensive. Competitive bidding is driving the cost per click so incredibly high that their daily ad spend is totally losing its financial impact. Basically, they were paying more and getting a whole lot less. So the crucial takeaway here is that to survive, they had to pivot. Instead of paying for those super expensive direct click ads, they shifted to a view harvest strategy by partnering with trendy micro-influencers. But here's the catch, right? Today's consumers don't always click a trackable link. They watch a video now and then they'll search for the brand organically on a marketplace way later. Suddenly, ABC Limited was completely blind. They couldn't track their returns, and they had to figure out a way to justify this brand new marketing budget without relying on broken link tracking. Which brings us to our second point. Enter the chain rule. To justify throwing money at these top-of-funnel views, the data science team desperately needed a reliable framework. And, funny enough, they found it in a totally unexpected place. The team's breakthrough was actually really simple, but profound. They solved this mess by turning the marketing funnel into a trackable, mathematical equation. Instead of getting bogged down in complex proofs or relying on flaky tracking cookies, they just used the calculus chain rule. They realized they could literally model their entire online ecosystem as a continuous chain reaction, tracing from the very first dollar spent all the way to the final sale. Okay, let's break down this math a bit by defining the variables in their chain rule, starting with the ultimate goal. The first variable is the total marginal return on investment. In calculus terms, this is the change in revenue over the change in spend. Put simply, this just tells us exactly how much new money pops out for every single additional dollar we pump into the influencer budget. Next up, to figure out that return, we've got a metric called marketplace monetization velocity. This one just tracks the actual real-world cash value of a customer once they're driven to search for the brand. Like, if someone searches for ABC Limited on Shopee or Lazada, how much gross revenue does that specific search historically generate? That is our monetization velocity. Then we have the platform spillover rate. Honestly, this is a brilliant metric. It answers the absolute critical question of how well an influencer's video actually anchors the brand in a viewer's mind. It acts as this mathematical proxy that calculates how many marketplace search actions are triggered per video view. Think of it like this. If 1 million people watch a video, how many of them actually spill over into a high-intent search? Finally, we have the view harvesting efficiency. This essentially represents the media team's direct purchasing power. It shows exactly how many eyeballs they can buy with every single dollar. Moving right along to extracting the data pipeline. Now, what's really fascinating here is how we take these clean, theoretical calculus variables and actually populate them with real-world, messy internet data. Because, let's face it, a formula is really only as good as the numbers you feed into it. The beauty of this whole approach is that the team completely bypasses complex web cookies. For step 1, they literally just gather spend and views directly from TikTok's dashboard and their agency invoices. For step 2, they capture those mid-funnel search volumes straight from the back-end business insights portals on Shopee and Lazada. And for step 3, they match all this up with completed order values on identical dates. Boom, it's a closed-loop data pipeline extracted straight from the platforms themselves. But As we all know, real digital metrics have a lot of natural marketplace noise, so they do have to process this raw data. First, they isolate the baseline by looking at quiet periods and subtracting everyday organic sales, ensuring they're only measuring the true influencer lift. Second, and this is clever, they apply what math folks call an ad stock transformation. Really, that's just a fancy way of using a decay factor to account for delayed purchases. For example, say a customer watches an influencer video on a Tuesday, but they wait until payday on the weekend to actually buy it. This ad stock transformation aligns that delayed traffic perfectly. Now for the fun part, the $5,000 test. Let's see how this actually builds into a tangible application. How does this mathematical pipeline handle a real corporate test when, actual money is on the line? So the data science team is handed an initial budget of $5,000, and their goal is to hit an ambitious 12-fold return on that capital. By plugging their historical conversion and spillover rates straight into that chain rule calculation we just talked about, the equation spits out a very specific target. They realize they have to achieve exactly 240 views for every single dollar spent to hit that 12-fold return. By multiplying those required 240 views by their $5,000 budget, the team realizes their absolute attention target. To make this work, they need to secure exactly 1.2 million views without going a single penny over budget. No pressure, right? And this brilliantly illustrates the whole strategy shift required to execute this math. If they take that $5,000 and blow the entire budget on one mega influencer, they face a super unpredictable view harvest. Modern algorithms frequently suppress highly commercialized content from massive accounts. So instead, they build a hyper-efficient portfolio of 8 to 12 rising micro-influencers. These smaller creators are currently favored by algorithms and experience strong, stable distribution waves. By paying just $400 to $500 per creator, they can practically guarantee those 1.2 million views at a highly efficient half a cent per view. Which brings us to finding the budget ceiling. This micro-influencer strategy is working perfectly for ABC Limited, but the data science team knows that infinite growth is a total myth. Eventually, the law of diminishing returns always kicks in. So they use the chain rule once again to find their exact breaking point. Through their continuous calculations, they uncover this highly specific number, $17,990. This isn't a guess. This is the exact mathematical ceiling where the strategy reaches saturation and literally stops being profitable. When we map this data onto a dynamic simulation dashboard, we can visually see that law of diminishing returns in action. You'll notice how the total revenue curve on the left starts to flatten out as they exhaust the most relevant audiences. But the real key is the calculus of capital efficiency on the right. That orange profit velocity curve slopes downward as it gets harder and harder to find cheap views. It slopes down until it hits that horizontal break-even line at exactly $17,990. That red dotted line? That is the absolute limit. If ABC Limited spends even one single dollar beyond that $17,990 mark, they cross right into a danger zone, where the cost of acquiring new viewers literally outweighs the profit those viewers bring in. Thanks to calculus, they know exactly when to turn off the tap. By turning a messy, modern digital marketing problem into a clean, trackable calculus equation, ABC Ltd didn't just survive the rising cost of ads. They absolutely conquered it. They proved without a doubt that you do not need perfect link tracking if you have a sound mathematical framework. Which leaves us with a fascinating final thought for you. Think about the messy data you look at every single day. Could a fresh perspective, and maybe, just maybe, a little high school math be the slingshot for your next massive breakthrough?